My ex-students from high school are just useful for picking up trash. It was the manager who said the worst. I sweat in the morning putting out the trash, and he belittles me cruelly. It turned out to be a mistake, my rare trash duty. Do you work as a janitor now? Simply head home after completing the nasty chores in a hurry. I saw it as a sarcastic dig from a long-time rival, but it appears the management has forgotten who I am. That only serves to aggravate me further. How could someone who graduated from Harvard forget the individuals they hurt? I made the decision to present the facts to this conceited manager. You're fired. The manager's face froze when I stated those remarks because he was taken aback by the sudden change in tone. He was too shocked to contest it. Nothing could have damaged the manager's dignity more than hearing from someone he always deferred to that he wasn't needed. In front of me, I could see the manager's face become really red. I defeated my insecurities that day. I am Jackson. I work as a janitor at my brother's firm and am 52 years old. I'm only a cleaning lady, I never finished high school, and I've never worked a full-time job. And yet my brother Robert, with all his uselessness, welcomed me with open arms. Since we were little, we have been together. Our well-off, financially secure parents spent a lot of money to make sure we had a good upbringing. Robert lived up to their expectations, but I never could keep up in school or on the sports field. My parents' hopes gradually switched to Robert, and I was all but forgotten. Even though Robert was encouraging and polite, I thought that was embarrassing. You move at your own speed. Don't stress over it. I never saw any progress, even with tutors and extracurricular activities. I was so frustrated that I was unable to accept what my brother had said. Upon realizing that I would never be able to match Robert, I quit trying to study and left middle school. My brother went to an exclusive institution and developed his academic record over time. But I had no luck in the employment market. An employer would never take on a high school dropout. It was unbearable to be a shut-in at home and to hear about my brother's accomplishments. I began to regret my existence. Eventually, when I was in my 40s, our parents went away from disease. My brother extended an offer to hire me as a janitor at his business. If you're okay with it, why not try working here? My brother, who is still quite kind, offered to help because he was worried about the health effects of me being stuck at home. I accepted, feeling both happy and frustrated at the same time. I reasoned that it was better than doing nothing after our parents passed away. But when I joined, I was thrust into an unanticipated inferno. Cars are sold by my brother's company. Cleaning the office and the car storage places is part of the job description. To help me out, my brother employed me without disclosing our relationship. I was starting to get used to the job when something happened that completely threw me off. As usual, I was cleaning the desks at the office when a woman approached me out of nowhere. The place you clean has an awful stench. Could you please quit working so shoddily? I took aback at the abrupt critique. I was so embarrassed that I apologized right away, but the woman continued to be threatening. I don't want an apology. Please just stop cleaning my desk and stay away from any areas that our clients use. It will be disrespectful if they smell you. I felt like trash being treated by this woman. I took a quick look at her name tag, which stated Nancy Anderson. I continued saying I was sorry, not wanting to cause any trouble, even though she was also the manager. Nancy dismissively waved me away. This explains why I detest janitors. Please don't touch anything significant because you can't even get rid of the stench of your old guy. Her attitude was incredibly conceited. I controlled my growing rage and completed my daily tasks. She was an exceptional Harvard graduate who had recently been promoted to manager, which I later verified with my brother. I was thankful for my job, but I couldn't stand to be treated like garbage. I was told I smelled horrible when I was cleaning the other day. My day was destroyed by her constant criticism, even after I apologized. My brother gave a deep, heavy sigh as I told him about the rough treatment. Once more, she is incredibly talented, but she has a severe personality disorder. Her upbringing in a harsh environment has made her reject anyone she thinks is flawed. It's preferable to stay away from her because of the numerous accidents that have occurred in the organization. It was obvious that my brother was having problems and needed help. The worst feeling is when someone with an accomplished career disparages you. Why did I have to put up with this abuse when I was simply doing my job? Sensing unfairness, I returned to work the following day, only to have the manager face me once more. Despite yelling at me to leave my desk yesterday, my trash wasn't picked up. Now she was whining about the trash not being picked up. There is a tiny trash can on each desk for modest paperwork waste. After an incident in which crucial documents were thrown into these bins, the corporation decided that each employee should be responsible for handling their own trash. The manager, however, was incensed over the uncollected rubbish. It's the rule that individuals handle their own trash. I apologized profusely, not wanting to incite any ire, but the manager refused to back down. Rather, she escalated her aggression. Are you paid, correct? You ought to give to those of us who earn the highest income. Or do you believe you can handle my work? High school dropouts should do this kind of work. Dropouts should handle dirty work. Her remarks wounded my heart because I dropped out of high school myself. People in this country despise those without formal education or employment background. It has to do with corporate policies, not status or education. There was an issue recently when significant documents were discovered in the garbage. Everyone needs to handle their own garbage in order to stop this. She ought to be aware of this matter as a manager. She could not have been unaware of it. But she started to fabricate her own narrative of what had happened. Obviously, I'm aware of it. I don't care that some of our staff look to be stupid. I would never commit such an error. Are you accusing me, or what? She looked at me like I was accusing her, and her absurd reasoning, that rules didn't apply to her, because she didn't make mistakes, was astounding. What a nasty custodian. How is this dirty, useless man allowed to work for the company? You can be fired at any time by my simple command. Follow orders without hesitation. She said whatever she wanted, not realizing that I was the brother of the CEO. How she interpreted events to fit her narrative eluded me. Reluctantly, I promised to pick up her trash because I understood there was no use in explaining company policies to her. That day, when I told my brother about the incident, he appeared contrite. I apologize for the hassle. Nancy may be trying to get at you. She may be intentionally targeting you out of revenge. My brother expressed regret, but I thought I ought to have apologized first because I believed my incapacity was bothering and creating issues for my brother. It was really uncomfortable for me. I began to feel that as a recent high school dropout, it might be best for me to give up my job. At that moment, my brother made a surprising suggestion. It's not necessary for you to tidy the main office right now. Consider working somewhere else. We'd intend to shortly open a new office. The abrupt idea of a transfer stunned me. A cleaning staff member, such as myself. Surely this is a joke. My brother claimed that there was an extraordinary labor shortage. Even basic things, he argued, would be beneficial. I would be moving to a regional office, thanks to my brother's quick thinking and the changing times. I had assumed that my brother and other highly educated individuals would be understanding until that point. I learned from talking to that management that it might not always be the case. The reason my brother was so incredibly wonderful was because he was my sibling. When I realized this, I was once again grateful that he had hired me. After 10 years, I made my first long overdue visit to the main office. I thought about the office and how it had not altered throughout the years. I am in this position now because I was a janitor here. While I was taking out the garbage and reflecting, I happened to run into Nancy, the notorious manager. She said something familiar, but in rage when she noticed me carrying the trash bags. High school dropouts are only good for taking out the trash. It was she who spoke the worst. I was sweating in the morning, bringing out the trash, when she cruelly made fun of me. It turned out to be a mistake, my rare trash duty. And more janitor. Simply head home after completing the nasty chores in a hurry. I took it to be a sarcastic remark from a longtime rival, but the manager didn't seem to recognize me. That infuriated me even more. How could someone who graduated from Harvard forget the individuals they hurt? I made the decision to tell this self-centered manager, "You're fired." The manager's face froze when I stated those remarks because he was taken aback by the sudden change in tone. She was told she wasn't required by someone she usually denigrated, and she was too shocked to protest. There was nothing more damaging to the manager's ego. In front of me, I noticed her face getting really red. "Janitor, don't get arrogant. Are you aware of who I am? This company employs me as a manager. I have the power to terminate you if I don't like you." She had told me the same thing once before. She had obviously forgotten all about me. Not only that, but she had overlooked the most recent alterations to the organizational chart. "I apologize, but a manager lacks that power. It's you who is at fault. A month ago, we made everyone aware of this. Did you fail to verify?" The manager seemed perplexed when I pointed out her error, seemingly unaffected by my assurance. She was startled by my surprising answer, and drops of perspiration were falling from her brow. "What do you mean?" She tried not to show her anger, but it was impossible to disguise her calmness. After all of this discussion, she most likely hadn't looked over the crucial paperwork if she still didn't comprehend. I chose to give this inexperienced manager a detailed explanation, saying, "My brother actually gave me the firm a month ago so that he could focus on starting a new enterprise. Consider becoming the CEO from a janitor. I know, it's difficult to believe. I felt it was a joke when my brother suggested it while I was working at the new office. I'm considering giving you full control of this business. You followed and studied my work for 10 years. I'll be available for consultation when I turn it over, so don't worry. Besides, wouldn't it be amazing to disprove everyone? A CEO who dropped out of high school and succeeded could be a source of inspiration." Although my brother spoke with optimism, I was so anxious that I was unable to sleep for days. He's always been the kind of person who must accomplish everything in his path. It appeared that he was genuinely interested in pursuing his proposal this time. I then worked for him as his assistant, where I gained managerial experience. My brother gave me the reins 10 years later once I had mastered all the required tasks. It appeared that the manager was unaware of the full move, although having previously been informed about it as a crucial business issue. I've taken over my brother's firm entirely. You are a manager who is unaware that I am the present CEO. The manager murmured in shock when I mentioned this. The idea that the janitor in front of her was in charge of the business she worked for was beyond her comprehension. Since I experienced the same emotions when my brother first contacted me about it, I could understand her reaction. "You're telling falsehoods." I had no prior knowledge of this. Official documents are used in this company to express important things. I could not possibly be unaware of it. She refused to recognize any fault in herself and accused higher management of failing to tell her. "It makes sense that you were unaware. You were tossing paperwork in the trash because you were so busy." She had complained to me about the trash pickup 10 years prior. I discovered crucial documents in her garbage can a few days after I was instructed to gather the trash. They wound up in her trash when they ought to have been destroyed. I gave the materials to one of her subordinates, who appeared irritated, not wanting to become involved. It seems that she was in the habit of throwing away documents without looking through them, and when her subordinates tried to retrieve them, she would chastise them for interfering. "I tossed papers in the garbage. Don't act absurd. You could not possibly know that." Even now, the management was unable to recall that I had previously been a janitor here. How could somebody have graduated from Harvard with such a bad memory? That she made no effort to recall the janitors' faces is disheartening. She could have felt regret if she had recalled me. "I don't need your belief. That's not the problem at hand. I came to you today with some very crucial news. You did chastise a female employee more than once recently, correct? She's accused you of fraud and has filed a complaint against you. The manager froze the moment I brought up fraud. Her suspicious demeanor was almost like an admission of guilt. I carried on chatting with the manager of No Cylind. Allegedly, in order to inflate the insurance claims, you asked a mechanic to damage cars. This is a strategy employed by unscrupulous businesses. This technique is totally prohibited by our firm. Can you refute this, Nancy the manager? Depending on the degree of damage, the sum for cars that are damaged may vary. Elevating the harm could result in increased earnings for the sales company, a strategy that had gained notoriety. This was a habit that my brother abhorred and had outright forbidden. However, considering that the manager disregarded the regulations regarding waste, she had clearly broken this one. It did not surprise me. That's not anything I would ever order. She was perspiring heavily as she continued. That employee is lying to frame me. Desperately, the manager refuted the charge. The manager would never acknowledge anything, no matter how much I asked. That was around 10 years ago. I gave the proof since I felt it would be pointless to spend more time listening to her pitiful justifications. I've got evidence. Do you intend to refute it? The mechanic you trained admitted it. We have documentation of your conversations. I had spent a lot of time getting ready for this day since I knew she would deny me. We looked into the mechanic who was suspected and went over all the incidents and situations that were related. This is a dream, a nightmare. Considering how well things had gone for her up to this point, the shock was great. The manager, unwilling to face reality, muttered that it was a dream, a delusion. I was meticulous in my preparations because I had been wronged by her before. All of this was done to exact my retribution today. You may think that a minor company rule and a high school dropout are unimportant, but in society, we have to get along with people from diverse backgrounds and coexist with the regulations. You didn't accomplish that. She shook and fell to the ground as I showed her the mechanic's photo on my phone. I was prepared to play the taped evidence if she would not acknowledge it. It was also revealed to us that they were having an affair. To keep the affair a secret, the family-oriented mechanic was forced to commit fraud. We are also aware of your relationship. The mechanic expressed sorrow for his error and claimed that he was intoxicated by beer at the time. We shall consider this malicious and report it to the police if you continue to deny everything. Is that your desired outcome? When the manager realized she had no choice but to hang her head, she finally acknowledged everything. Graduating from Harvard doesn't mean one will always act ethically. The manager acknowledged everything and then admitted to the scam. She had developed the insurance fraud as a result of her involvement with the mechanic. Here, I am the victim. You're painting me as the bad guy, even though I was duped by the man and was frantically attempting to help the business. The former manager continued to claim victim status even at this point. However, the truth became much more unsettling as we examined the specifics in more detail. She had assumed everything would go according to plan and had intended to ruin the mechanic's family before marrying him. He proposed to me. I was just going where he led me. So that implies that it was agreed upon. It appeared as though she would consider it excused if it was consenting. The person in charge did not know how to respond to her absurd explanation. Being overly intelligent could lead someone to believe that social norms as well as business policies are limitations. The manager received disciplinary action after confessing. The former manager's tragedy didn't end there. Her family turned out to be very loving. Following this discovery, she filed for divorce, giving her ex-husband custody of their kids. She was hospitalized in a psychiatric center due to acute emotional discomfort brought on by the succession of catastrophes. Although one may never be sure where life will go wrong, one thing is certain. Everyone must follow the laws and assume equal responsibility, regardless of intelligence. In a society where everyone is equal before the law, education and employment history are irrelevant. I believed that the ex-manager, who had always placed the responsibility elsewhere, needed to know what it was like to be in the miserable situation she had once denigrated. Things became stressful after coping with the prior manager's penalty, but we made it through with my brother's assistance. I couldn't let the business my brother had fought so hard to establish to fail. I put forth a lot of effort to rebuild our reputation and win back the trust of partners and clients. It was hard every day. In contrast to earlier, I had never had the opportunity to shine myself and had only ever heard of my brother's accomplishments. It's why I enjoyed being busy. I got a job, assumed leadership, and achieved outcomes. I accepted it, even though most people would find it overwhelming. My brother said that I was even better than him, praising my diligence. I'm happy I gave you the company. I appreciate you defending the business I founded. As soon as I heard the term family, I was pleased. The person who had always given me the most anxiety was now thanking me. It was my brother. His gratitude made me feel even more satisfied. I wanted to excel and to be of value, but I'd suffered so much from not being expected to perform well and from not achieving the desired outcomes. I shed happy tears as the years of hurt feelings seemed to pay off. I ought to express my gratitude to you. I'm grateful that you are my brother. We both cried together like kids, both in our 50s. I wish to carry on the business with my beloved brother going forward. I'm considering taking a significant step to propagate my thought and get greater exposure because I've been rejected by society. I promise to improve society. The training day finally arrived. The training was conducted in a rented conference room with top-notch audiovisual gear because the office conference room was inadequately furnished. Due to the rather early start time of the session, everyone was expected to go straight from their homes to the training site and then return to the office. I got to the training site early and waited for the other staff members to arrive. This is odd. I had told everyone that the training would begin at 9:30, but by 9:25, nobody had shown up. Michael, the trainer, was already getting the movies and session materials ready when he arrived 30 minutes early. Is it possible that nobody will arrive 5 minutes prior to the start time? Although someone might come very near, it seemed too coincidental that the entire department showed up at the last minute. Nevertheless, I chose to hold off until 9:30, hoping it was really a strange coincidence. The time was 9:31. It was past the commencement time. This is strange. Is it possible that everyone mistook the time and date? As he said, I double-checked that I had communicated the correct date and time multiple times. Michael appeared worried. However, I became anxious, questioning whether I had actually made a mistake. The right information was displayed in the shared conversation, though, and several staff members even responded. Got it. Not a single person could have misinterpreted the date. I said, I'm so sorry, to Michael. My phone rang at that very moment. I noticed it was Kevin phoning when I looked at the screen. I said to Michael, I apologize, but this is Kevin. And then I took the phone. This is John, Kevin. Where are you at the moment? I questioned him nervously. Where else? I'm in the workplace. I became more depressed and anxious after hearing this. The training day is today. Michael's waiting. Will you be able to arrive soon? Furthermore, nobody else has arrived. Why would I go? Kevin responded loudly, laughing. Additionally, there's no point in waiting for anyone else because they won't arrive either. Would you mind attending the training alone? Unable to understand his meaning, I answered. What do you mean? I let everyone know the accurate date. You are welcome to look at the chat for yourself. Yeah, I know, Kevin answered, laughing once again. However, I informed the executives that it was your error. So don't worry, they'll blame you for everything. I am eagerly anticipating it. I became enraged and retorted, why would you do such a thing? Although I'm accustomed to your abuse, Michael is involved this time. You're giving him difficulty. Kevin's voice became derisive. Michael? who gives a damn about an unknown elderly man? Though not particularly valuable, the CEO's lectures are at least marginally superior. This training, to be honest, is useless. Isn't it preferable to remain at the workplace incomplete? Your real work? I was surprised. He was constantly so obedient to the superiors, but now he was disparaging even the CEO. Kevin continued, I ordered everyone in our department not to attend this training. And hey, I even coordinated the dates so everything would go smoothly. You should thank me for my generosity. Kevin let out a loud laugh, sounding just like an evil overlord from a children's cartoon as he shouted those words. I was beyond angry and deeply disappointed to have crossed paths with such a petty boss. Why, Executive Director, did you hand someone like him such power? Just then, Michael, who had been watching me with concern, said, I see. So that's what's happening. And from there, events unfolded in ways I could never have predicted. My name is John Williams. I'm a 34-year-old office worker. I work for a mid-sized IT company called R Technology. Our CEO is a woman named Lauren Carter. I didn't attend college due to my financial circumstances, so I joined this company straight out of high school. 15 years have passed since then. Recently, my biggest concern has been the change in my direct manager. My previous boss, Robert, had to leave the company due to health issues and return to his hometown. The executive director, James, brought in an acquaintance with managerial experience at another IT company, Kevin Davis, who became our new department head last month. Kevin is 35, close to your age, and a polite guy. I'm sure you'll get along well, James told me before I met Kevin. I was hopeful. Robert, who was twice my age, had treated me like a son. But the idea of working with a manager close to my age felt refreshing. However, my expectations crumbled the moment I first met Kevin. It happened on his first day at work. Nice to meet you. My name is Kevin, and I've been assigned as the new department head. I may cause some inconvenience as I get settled, but I look forward to working with you. Kevin greeted us with a formal introduction. At first, when James introduced him in our presence, Kevin seemed completely ordinary. But as soon as James returned to another floor and left the room, Kevin's demeanor completely changed. Listen up, all of you. Don't think you can look down on me just because I'm young. I'm going to run a tight ship here. Slack off, and you're out, fired on the spot. The sudden shift in Kevin's personality froze the entire room. I had been hopeful when James said, he's close to your age and seems like a polite guy. But Kevin's proximity in age only seemed to amplify his hostility, and I became his target from the very first day. You there. I don't know how long you've been at this company, but you seem like the least useful person here. What college did you graduate from? Suddenly being singled out, I panicked and stammered. Well, I didn't go to college. Hearing my awkward response, Kevin burst into loud laughter and said seriously, You didn't go to college? High school graduate? That's unbelievable. To be insulted like this upon our first meeting made me seriously question his character. And knowing I would have to face this person every day from now on made my heart sink. From that day on, the power dynamics within our department began to shift. People started dividing into two groups. Those who wanted to avoid Kevin's overbearing personality and stayed out of his way, and those who tried to win his favor to make their lives easier. The avoidance group wasn't harassed outright, but they weren't treated well either, leading to a weaker standing within the company. On the other hand, the favor-seeking group enjoyed preferential treatment, better work, assignments, and more decision-making authority. When Robert was the department head, he evaluated employees based on their performance fairly, but Kevin evaluated employees based on his personal feelings, which raised serious doubts in my mind. Among the avoidance group, some people managed to keep their heads down and get through each day. but others became mentally exhausted and started taking frequent absences. It was disheartening to see people who had been lively and motivated during Robert's time now struggling. I didn't belong to either faction, and I was constantly thinking about how to create a better work environment for everyone. Eventually, I realized that the only way to address this issue was to report it to higher management. So about a month after Kevin's arrival, I decided to speak with James. James, I need to talk to you. Our department is facing some serious issues. What's going on, John? What's the problem? I explained to James how our team was becoming divided and how Kevin wasn't evaluating employees fairly. Kevin becomes very overbearing when supervisors aren't around. While strictness can be necessary for work, the way he plays favorites among employees and treats others unfairly is a major issue. Back when Robert was here, evaluations were based on the quality of our work, but James' response was disheartening. Well, I understand what you're saying, John, but Kevin is still new to his role. He's probably trying different methods to find what works. You should just focus on doing your best under his leadership. Speaking poorly of your boss isn't the right approach. Try to get along with him. I felt deeply disappointed. It wasn't about badmouthing Kevin. It was about addressing a serious problem. If we turned a blind eye to wrongdoing, it would only embolden such behavior. But James likely felt obligated to defend Kevin, given that he had personally handpicked him. I understand. I'm sorry for bringing it up, I said, ending the conversation and returning to my work. A few days later, something unexpected happened. The CEO of Future Vision Incorporated, Joshua, is here. Who is in charge of him? An employee who received the call from the receptionist told our department. So, Future Vision was a client I'd been handling for years, and I had scheduled a meeting with Joshua to discuss contract renewals. I'm the person in charge. I'll head to the conference room now, I said as I stood up. But Kevin immediately raised his voice and said, John, don't go. You're no longer in charge. From today, Tony will be handling Future Vision. What? I couldn't believe my ears. I had been responsible for this client for years and had scheduled this meeting with Joshua, yet Kevin was reassigning the account on the spot. But Joshua is already here. We agreed to meet at 2 p.m. Kevin shot back, Don't talk back to me. You're such an arrogant, useless employee. Typical for someone with only a high school education. Shut up and stay out of it. Kevin then turned to Tony, a college-educated employee in the favor-seeking group, and ordered, Tony, you're in charge of Future Vision from now on. Head to the conference room immediately and close the deal. He is one of the employees who aligns himself with Kevin to gain his favor. Tony, surprised by the sudden directive, hesitated and said, Me? Really? Okay, I'll do my best. He left the room reluctantly, heading toward the conference room. Why are you suddenly reassigning this account? If you're going to make changes, there needs to be a proper handover, I argued to Kevin. And he said back, It's your defiance and holier-than-thou attitude that irritates me. Keep pushing back, and I'll make sure you're fired. What he's saying is ridiculously childish. A department head, someone responsible for leading their colleagues, should never say such things, I thought. But Kevin went on to say something even more absurd. I heard all about it. You went to James to badmouth me, didn't you? Tony's the one who leaked that information. So as a token of my gratitude, I've decided to assign him the Future Vision account. And as your penalty, I'm taking you off the account. How does that feel? If you keep going against me, you'll find yourself completely isolated in this company, sitting by the window with no work to do until you're finally fired. Kevin laughed as if he was thoroughly enjoying himself. He's insane. It was a mistake to make him department head. I was certain of it. But knowing that talking to James about the reality of this situation had led to this result I felt utterly lost. Kevin's dislike for me was now absolute, and from that point on, he systematically removed me from my responsibilities, leaving me with almost no real work. He even took to ridiculing me in a mocking tone, saying things like, "Hey John, go make some coffee. And if it tastes bad, do it again. Coffee and photocopying are the only things you're good for, so at least try to get those right." Biting my lip in frustration, I had no choice but to prepare coffee for the staff. Man, you really have it rough, huh? Getting stuck making coffee despite how long you've been here. If it were me, I'd just quit, a younger colleague said, mocking me. And he was not the only one. There were other employees of Kevin's loyal group who made fun of me along with Kevin. I realized that human society, which seems peaceful and stable at times, can easily descend into chaos, with some people attacking others when the balance is disturbed. But there was one task I still had left, besides making coffee and photocopying. Our company holds training sessions twice a year, bringing in external instructors to teach the employees. This tradition started long before I joined the company, and while I don't know exactly who oversees it, I had been assigned the role of communicating the training schedule to my department's employees a few years ago. Since the sessions are held department by department, I needed to coordinate the best dates for our team and report them to upper management. To do this, I sent out a survey in our department's shared chat, asking employees to submit their preferred dates by the end of the month. Looks like the deadline's approaching. Returning to my desk, I opened my computer to check the responses. This year, everyone chose the same date. Usually, preferences were all over the place, requiring me to go around and adjust schedules individually, a time-consuming process. But this time, it seemed like a stroke of luck, and I felt grateful for the rare coincidence. I promptly informed upper management of the finalized date and shared the information in the department's group chat. Since some people inevitably missed messages, I also announced the date during the morning meeting and put up posters to ensure no one would overlook it. This responsibility had originally been handled by our previous department head, Robert, but it had become my job over time. When I informed Kevin about the training and my role as the schedule coordinator, he showed no signs of disapproval. So this kind of training happens every year. Sounds fine to me. You're in charge of coordinating the schedule, so take care of it, he said with rare approval. With everything in place, I prepared for the training day as usual, confident in my work. "Hey John, who's the instructor for this training session?" A few days before the training, Kevin asked me this question. I shared the information I'd received from upper management. His name is Michael Ashton. He's an expert in the IT industry in his late 50s. Kevin's expression darkened, and he muttered, "As expert. I'm an expert in the IT industry too." Unsure how to respond, I said, "Well, I've heard he's somewhat of a celebrity in the field." I shared additional information I'd received. "Is that so?" Kevin said dismissively, ending the conversation. Finally, the day of the training arrived. Because our office conference room lacked the necessary equipment, the training was held in a rented conference room equipped with high-quality audio-visual systems. Since the session started relatively early in the morning, everyone was instructed to go directly to the training venue from home and return to the office afterward. I'd arrived at the training venue early and waited for the other employees to arrive. This is strange. Even though I had informed everyone that the session started at 9:30, not a single person had shown up by 9:25. The instructor, Michael, had arrived 30 minutes early and was preparing the materials and videos for the session. Could it really happen that no one shows up 5 minutes before the start? While it was possible for someone to cut it close, for the entire department to do so seemed far too coincidental. Still, I waited, hoping against hope, until 9:30. The clock struck 9:31. The start time had passed. That's strange. Could it be that everyone got the date and time wrong? Michael, the instructor, said to me with a worried expression. I double-checked to ensure I had communicated the correct date and time multiple times, but I started to panic, wondering if I had somehow made a mistake. However, the shared chat confirmed that I had relayed the correct information, and several employees had even replied with understood. It would be one thing if one or two people got the date wrong, but for everyone to make the same mistake was highly unlikely. I'm terribly sorry. I apologized to Michael. Just then, my phone started ringing. I quickly glanced at the screen and saw that it was Kevin calling. I turned to Michael and said, "Excuse me, it seems to be a call from Kevin," and then answered the phone. "Kevin, this is John. Where are you right now?" I asked him urgently. Kevin responded, "Where else would I be? I'm at the office, of course." Hearing this, I panicked even more and said, "Today is the training day. The instructor has been waiting. Can you come right away?" And none of the other employees have shown up either. Kevin laughed loudly and replied, "Why would I go? And the others? They won't show up either, no matter how long you wait. Why don't you just enjoy the training all by yourself?" I couldn't understand what was going on and replied, "What do you mean?" I'm certain I told everyone the correct date and time. "You can check the chat messages to see for yourself, Kevin." And then he said, "Yeah, I know. But don't worry. I'll report to upper management that it was your failure to communicate. I'm really looking forward to seeing you get chewed out for this." Anger welled up inside me, and I retorted, "Why would you do something like this? I'm used to you harassing me because you don't like me, but this time, it's causing trouble for Michael, our instructor. It's not fair." "Damn," Kevin responded. "Michael? Why would anyone care about some old guy no one knows? A lecture from the CEO would still be better than this nonsense, though honestly, our CEO's talks are pretty dull too. Either way, it's all pointless. Instead of wasting time on some lame training, you should be at the office doing real work." I was stunned. Kevin, who always acted submissive around executives, was now belittling even the CEO in this way. Kevin continued, "I told everyone in our department not to attend the training. Since no one was going to show up anyway, I at least made sure everyone submitted the same preferred date to make the scheduling process easier. You should thank me for my kindness." Kevin's laughter was like that of a cartoon villain from a children's show, loud and exaggerated. I felt a deep sense of disappointment, not just anger, about having crossed paths with such a ridiculous boss. "James, why on earth did you hire someone like him?" I thought to myself. At that moment, Michael, who had been standing nearby with a concerned expression, spoke up. "I see, so that's what's been going on." Surprised, I instinctively said, "What?" It quickly dawned on me that Kevin's loud voice and Michael's proximity had allowed him to overhear our entire conversation. "I'm sorry, Michael. I never expected things to turn out like this. This is also my oversight. I deeply apologize." When I apologized, Michael replied, "No, you don't need to apologize. None of this is your fault." He continued, "You've been through a lot, haven't you? I'll handle this situation myself. Don't worry about today. I'll be in touch later." He then packed up the projector and materials he had prepared and left. As I walked back from the rental conference room to my company, my mind was flooded with thoughts. Michael had said he would handle the matter. Could that mean I might face a demotion, a pay cut, or even the worst-case scenario, being fired? On the other hand, Michael had overheard Kevin's words. Would Kevin be held accountable? But as an external instructor, Michael might only report that his time was wasted due to our company's mistakes, which could still result in me being blamed. With these thoughts swirling in my mind, I arrived at the office. Entering the building, I felt a heavy weight as I headed toward the third floor, where my department was located. To delay my arrival, I told myself it's for exercise and opted to take the stairs instead of the elevator. Still feeling dejected, I entered my department's office. What greeted me was an unexpected scene. Standing there was our CEO, Lauren Carter, arms crossed and glaring angrily at Kevin. In front of her, Kevin stood with his shoulders slumped, looking utterly defeated. "I'm really sorry. I didn't mean it." Kevin was unusually meek as he apologized. "Sorry isn't going to cut it. James brought you here claiming you were a talented hire, but I was foolish to believe him. Giving someone as utterly incompetent as you a managerial position and paying you a salary, what a waste." Lauren raised her voice in frustration before letting out a deep sigh. The other employees could only stand by, nervously watching the scene unfold. Soon after, Lauren noticed me standing nearby and turned her attention toward me. "John, you've been through a lot, haven't you? I'm so sorry for all the trouble you've had to endure." Lauren offered words of sympathy. I could only respond, "Yes," still struggling to grasp the situation. My husband was beyond angry. He was dumbfounded. He told me he's encountered many professionals in his long career, but rarely anyone this abysmal. He couldn't help but laugh. Bitterly, Lauren said this as if to herself. "Husband." I was still completely lost. "Oh, I didn't explain properly, did I? The instructor you met earlier, Michael, is my husband. Before I founded this company, he ran several businesses, and he helped me tremendously when I was starting out. That's why I asked him to lead this training, to share his knowledge and experience with our employees. Oh, and his full name is Michael Ashton, but in the industry, he's known as Mark Brown. He uses a different name when writing," Lauren explained. "Wait, was that Mark Brown? I've read his books. He's published so many bestsellers." I exclaimed, overwhelmed with excitement. "I'm sorry for not telling you sooner. Michael and I kept our surnames, so there was no way you could have known. But you see, he overheard your conversation with Kevin at the training venue and told me everything. I'm truly glad I found out. If I hadn't, this dangerous employee named Kevin would have been left unchecked, causing even bigger problems." Michael told me Kevin said on the phone, "The CEO's talks are pointless." Not only did he insult Michael, but he also had the audacity to badmouth me. "How could you badmouth the CEO like that? You're so two-faced, Kevin. I can't trust you at all. You're fired, effective immediately." With those words, Lauren decisively terminated Kevin's employment. Kevin slumped in defeat. But then, seemingly out of spite, he turned to me and suddenly started shouting, "This is all your fault, John. You set me up, didn't you? I'll never forgive you." At that moment, a figure appeared at the doorway. "The one who won't forgive you is me. I won't forgive you, Kevin." It was James, who spoke with a stern tone. "James, what did you just say?" Kevin stammered. James responded, "I'll say it as many times as necessary. I won't forgive you, Kevin. I trusted you enough to bring you in as a manager, and this is how you repay me. Betrayal like this is unacceptable. As atonement for the trouble you've caused the employees, I intend to resign as well." Then James turned to me and said, "John, I owe you the deepest apology. I believe I caused you the most trouble. When you came to me before to report Kevin's behavior, I dismissed you, without addressing the issue. That was my mistake. As a leader, my duty should have been to investigate the claims you brought to me. I failed as a manager." James apologized to me. "James, please don't apologize," I replied, having no intention of blaming him. Seeing this exchange, Lauren said, "James, we'll discuss your position later. I understand Kevin was deceitful and ingratiating toward his superiors, so I don't blame you entirely for not seeing through him. However, your response to John's report wasn't adequate, so I'll have to issue a formal reprimand. That said, resigning is unnecessary. Thank you, Lauren. I truly appreciate your understanding. And I'm very sorry. James lowered his head, his voice subdued. All right, everyone. Let's get back to work. Kevin will be handling his resignation paperwork, so, James, please oversee that. Oh, and one more thing. The training we missed today will be rescheduled, so make sure you all attend. John, I'll leave the arrangements to you. Again, thanks. Lauren gave her instructions energetically and left the room. Kevin, his shoulders slumped, was led to another room by James. That was the last time I ever saw him. About 3 months later, time had moved on. The rescheduled training was held successfully, with no absentees, and everyone found it highly beneficial. My hard work was acknowledged by the CEO, and I received a pay raise. Lauren even told me directly that she hoped I would take on the role of department manager in the near future. The employees who had previously aligned themselves with Kevin to gain his favor now acted deferential and respectful toward me. However, I had no intention of favoring anyone who tried to curry favor with me. While it saddened me that some colleagues had developed such attitudes, I was determined to follow in Robert's footsteps and evaluate everyone's work fairly. I believed that by fostering fairness, the workplace atmosphere would improve as a whole. I wasn't sure how much I could change on my own, but I was determined to try. James chose not to resign and remained a reliable executive who consistently showed care for us employees. I hope to work alongside him to create an excellent workplace environment. By the way, I heard through the grapevine that Kevin returned to his family's home in the countryside. Apparently, he's working as a regular employee there, or so they say. He's still young, so I hope he turns over a new leaf and does his best. One day, James called me into his office. John, do you have a moment? When I arrived, he shared some unexpected news. Thanks to a recommendation from Joshua, the president of Future Vision, we might land a contract with an even bigger client. The company is Site A, and Joshua specifically requested that you handle the account. Can I count on you? Really? I'm honored. Thank you so much. Future Vision was the client I'd been abruptly removed from under Kevin's orders, but Joshua still remembered me. According to James, Joshua told him I was far more reliable than my replacement and praised my competence. I'm considering giving the Future Vision account back to you, but since you're set to become a manager, I might need to let Tony learn and grow more in that role. No, I'm still learning myself. How about I accompany Tony to the next meeting with Joshua to support him? That's a great idea. Thanks, John. I reflected deeply and thought. When you work hard and stay sincere, there are always people who notice and appreciate it. In the workplace, there will always be challenges and difficult people, but I resolved to remain steadfast and genuine in my actions. I knew that eventually, that effort would come back to benefit me. With that thought, I looked at the business card for Topside Incorporated, picked up the phone, and dialed the number. Hello, I'm John from RET Technology. I was referred by the CEO of Future Vision, Joshua, and I'm calling to speak with your president, Mr. Mark Smith. Is he available? I felt a sense of excitement and anticipation for the new opportunities that lay ahead. I take it that you are a single parent. You probably don't have a lot of money. All right, just wait your turn. Back up, back up. Upon observing that I was a single parent, the bank staff treated my son, Tyler, and I with contempt when we went to take out some cash. We were then forced to wait for hours, which made the situation worse. If we withdraw the $8 billion we have deposited, we could shut this place down, right? Tyler said in a whisper just as I was about to lose my rage. We both smiled mischievously at that. Shirt is my name. I live with my husband, Rick, and our recently kindergarten-aged son, Tyler. When we were in college, I got to know Rick. I was studying for law school at the time. Rick, a student at T University's medical school, was likewise occupied with his clinical rotations. We both went to a singles party to take a break from our studies, but we had no idea how this chance meeting would shape our lives. That day, we clicked and exchanged numbers. We were studying together at the library by the following week. The tuition was reasonable because my university was a national one. However, I wanted to take the bar exam, so I needed to save money for law school. Rick's wallet wasn't exactly full because he was too occupied with medical school to work much part-time. The majority of our dates were studying at the library or at each other's houses, with the occasional lunch break in between. However, I treasured each day I had with Rick. It was 4 years later. I passed the bar exam in my last year of law school. Additionally, Rick passed his medical licensing exam. After our training sessions ended, we were married. We were both working for a while, him as a doctor and me as a new lawyer. We couldn't even keep our house organized because of how demanding our careers were. It was a mess all the time. I wanted to provide healthy meals for Rick, but I was unable to do it with my job alone. Our trash bags were frequently stuffed with empty lunchboxes and frozen food packages. Rick never complained, regardless of how much I neglected the housework. He was too busy to assist, though. Rick had to work nights as a doctor, but I didn't frequently stay up all night. We seemed to have been running together since our days of rigorous study. We were fortunate to have a child 10 years into our marriage. "We don't want you to quit," said the legal firm where I worked. "Even if you are on leave, we will continue to pay your lawyer registration fees. Please return after childcare is under control." But Rick also hoped for this, deeply engrossed in his arduous work. I therefore made the decision to halt my legal profession. I stayed in the law firm until my cases were resolved. After that, time began to pass shockingly slowly. At last, I could concentrate on Rick, our house, and our soon-to-be kid. Our lives changed from being busy to having time to take care of our home. Our child was born, and we named him Tyler. Tyler was a bright kid. By the age of 2, he could read and write all letters in the alphabet. By the time he started kindergarten, he could read an analog clock and would start reading the news on the computer with Rick. On our way to and from kindergarten, he would explain the news to me. I was astonished by his rapid growth, but Rick just smiled and said, "I think it's normal." According to Rick's mom, Rick was the same as a child. But perhaps the peak of my life was those peaceful years spent as a stay-at-home mom, raising young Tyler by Rick's side. When Tyler was 5, in winter, our family went skiing. It was a beautiful sunny morning, perfect for skiing. But in the evening, just as we were about to head home, the weather turned bad. As we were hurrying back, Rick said, "I see something like a hat in the snow off the course. Someone might have fallen. I'll go check." I had a bad feeling. But knowing Rick, who worked in emergency medicine and always put saving lives first, he couldn't just ignore it if someone was in trouble. So I didn't stop him. If only I had insisted he stay, but it's too late for regrets now. As Rick approached the snow pile, a fierce blizzard hit, blocking our view. I was doing my best to protect Tyler in my arms. And when our vision cleared, Rick was nowhere to be seen. The rescue team arrived quickly, but Rick, who had lost his breath and body warmth to the snow, had already passed away. I couldn't even cry. Under the fearfully blue winter sky that had cleared again, I stood frozen, holding Tyler. Rick, who had just been laughing and skiing with us, was no longer there. All the memories from when we met until now raced through my mind like a flickering slideshow. Rick was earnest, intelligent, and always straightforward. In front of my stunned self, Tyler did not cry. Dad tried to help the person who lost their hat, right? In front of the lost hat, 5-year-old Tyler understood everything. Yes, he did try to help, I whispered, lost for words. I was tightly hugged by Tyler. Mom, I will help you. I will protect you. From then on, a huge void opened in my heart. Tyler, true to his words, stayed by my side, smiling, helping out with his little hands, and gently asking, "Are you okay, Mom?" He tried his best to protect me, but I realized that it was my responsibility to truly protect young Tyler. Now, without Rick, who was always with us, it's my duty to protect Tyler. This realization filled me with an indescribable fear of the unknown future. Rick, having been a doctor, left us with some inheritance. But Tyler was only 5 years old. I couldn't predict how much money would be needed in the future. Considering his intelligence, he might want to become a doctor like Rick, but the inheritance wouldn't cover the cost of medical school. I wished I could immediately return to working as a lawyer, but balancing a full-time job while raising young Tyler seemed daunting. I wanted to at least work part-time to earn some living expenses, but my health had deteriorated since Rick's passing, making even that impossible. And I felt anxious seeing our savings account dwindling day by day. Don't worry, Mom. I will protect you. I'll grow up fast, and it's all going to be okay. Tyler's reassuring hugs were my only solace, since he quickly read through any book I gave him. Constantly buying new ones would be expensive. So, we frequented the local library, allowing him to read plenty of books. By the time Tyler graduated from kindergarten, he had become proficient in writing foreign languages typically learned in high school. Learning foreign languages expanded the range of books he could read. Tyler, devouring books of all genres, had become much more knowledgeable in various subjects than I, who only knew about the law. Amid a life at rock bottom, having lost my loving husband, and with no one to rely on, Tyler's growth was the only ray of light. Years passed, and Tyler turned 9. His passion for reading books remained unchanged, but there was a big change in my life. When Tyler entered 4th grade, I returned to work as a lawyer. I had always loved my job and had a decade of experience from my 20s working tirelessly. A month after returning, I got back into the swing of things and was able to handle my work. By this time, my health, which had often faltered since losing Rick, had finally stabilized, and the nightmares that woke me up in the middle of the night had lessened. Still, balancing my job as a lawyer with household chores was challenging. I was barely managing the bare minimum, like preparing meals and doing laundry for Tyler. I had no time for myself. My makeup routine was just hurriedly applying foundation in the office bathroom in the morning. At night, I often fell asleep without removing my makeup, and my wardrobe was limited to suits for work and a few old casual clothes, making me look much older than I was. I even declined a college reunion invitation, feeling embarrassed about my current state. I returned home with a heavy heart that day. When I opened the door, I found Tyler sitting in front of a brand new computer, his eyes sparkling. "Tyler, what's with the computer?" "I won this. Remember the quiz show I participated in on TV? I kept it a secret until the broadcast, but I won, and this computer was the prize. Cool, right? You won? You should have told me sooner. That's amazing, Tyler, just like your dad." I hugged Tyler, who was sparkling with excitement. This computer marked the beginning of a new phase in Tyler's life. A year had passed since he received the computer as a prize from the quiz competition. Since that day, Tyler spent almost all his time at home on the computer. At first, I helped him with the operations, but that was only for a day or two. Then, he started buying specialized books from bookstores, rapidly absorbing knowledge. He was always quick at reading, and now that I was working, I could afford to buy him many books. Tyler's study desk quickly became filled with books on programming languages. I had only focused on law, so I knew nothing about computer development languages like Java or C++. Seeing Tyler so immersed and shining in this field made him seem almost otherworldly to me, as if he wasn't my own child. Rick, Tyler seems to have inherited your knack for the sciences. I caught myself talking to the night sky sometimes. Tyler would even read my old college books. Thinking about his future, I no longer felt the terror I had right after losing Rick. Tyler would carve his own strong path in life and society. I was sure of it. Every year on Rick's death anniversary, we always visited his grave, and this year was no different. While walking to the bank to withdraw money for Tyler's new computer, a man suddenly bumped into me from behind, causing me to nearly lose my balance and fall. The man was wearing an unusually glossy long coat and had a tacky oversized watch that he was flaunting. He then callously threw a comment over his shoulder. "Move it. You're in the way." What they? I almost blurted out a complaint but held back. Remembering that today was Rick's death anniversary, I wanted to avoid any trouble or foul language. "Mom, are you okay?" Tyler asked, coming over. I hugged him tightly. "Thank you, I'm fine. How about you, Tyler? That must have startled you." "Yeah, maybe that man was in a hurry, but I can't forgive him for bumping into Mom." "Oh, you're so kind, Tyler. But don't worry, I'm okay." "Welcome. How may I assist you today?" When we arrived at the bank, we were greeted with such a warm smile that it blew away the unpleasant feelings from earlier. The receptionist, Cindy, as her nameplate read, listened to our needs, quickly prepared some paperwork, and handed us a number. "We're a bit busy today, so there might be a short wait. Please have a seat on the sofa over there." We sat down on the sofa provided. "Wait, Mom, isn't that person?" Tyler exclaimed in surprise when someone was called up to the counter. "Oh yeah," I muttered in disbelief. The man who had bumped into me earlier was sitting there. "Give me those papers," he said. The bank clerk at the counter received our documents with an attitude that seemed like he didn't even consider us as customers. "I'll proceed with the procedures. Just wait at your seat." After scribbling on the documents, he handed them back as if shooing us away. I really wanted to complain, but I held it back. It's Dad's death anniversary today. We shouldn't argue. I said with a smile to Tyler, "What? So you are a single parent and a son, right? People like you guys should wait their turn." I was shocked to hear such unbelievable words coming from behind. It was indeed the voice of the bank clerk from earlier. Tyler was also standing there with his mouth gaping. "Tyler, don't worry about it. Let's read a book." Patting his shoulder and taking out a book I had brought, I noticed Tyler looked visibly upset, but he nodded and started reading. However, no matter how long we waited, our number wasn't called. At first, I thought it was because it was busy, but as I looked around, other customers, who seemed to have arrived after us, were being called and served. I thought it might be a misunderstanding, but it wasn't. An older man who had arrived just after us and sat on the sofa next to us finished his procedures and left. Then, a businessman-looking man who had arrived after we started reading also completed his procedures and left. "Mom, let's be good today. If it were Dad, he would have waited quietly." Tyler stopped me as I was about to stand up to complain. "You're right," I replied with a wry smile, opening my book again. It's ironic that I, a mother, was being reminded by her son. And so, we waited for nearly 3 hours. Even Tyler, usually so patient, started to get irritated as our number still hadn't been called. "Tyler, I'll go ask. Don't worry, I'll be polite. I won't do anything Dad would dislike." Tyler thought for a moment and then nodded. "Excuse me, we're number 57. We've been waiting for almost 3 hours. I approached the counter, trying to keep my irritation in check, and asked as politely as possible, "What? 3 hours? So what? It's busy. People like you, poor folks, are always last." The poor folks. Yeah, you're a single parent, right? You probably don't have much money anyway, so just wait and go back to your seat. What? You're changing the order of service based on that? I was about to retort, forgetting the promise I made to Tyler when suddenly I felt a tap on my back. Turning around, there was Tyler grinning broadly. Mom, what happens to this bank if we withdraw all the $8 billion we have deposited here? What are you talking about? $8 billion. Tremont, kid. I couldn't bear it anymore when they started mocking Tyler. Just as I was about to speak out, suddenly the branch manager burst out of the back room with great urgency. It seemed like Cindy had relayed the message, as I could see her emerging from behind the branch manager. Jimmy, what are you saying? The bank clerk looked startled. Jimmy, how dare you speak to our customers like that? But, branch manager, these people err. These people are Miss Johnson and her son, who have been favoring our bank with their business. At that moment, Jimmy showed an expression of unmistakable surprise. This lady, Miss Sherry Johnson, I had no idea. I mean, Miss Johnson, I am deeply sorry for the rudeness of our staff member, Jimmy, and for the long wait for your transaction. Please come this way. He ushered us into a private room. We are terribly sorry for the inconvenience. Upon entering the room, Cindy brought us warm green tea and small sweets, and a staff member, other than Jimmy, promptly proceeded with our paperwork. In fact, there is a deposit of $8 billion in this branch under my name. Of course, it's not money I earned as a mere lawyer. Tyler, utterly fascinated by computers and app development, struck gold with a game he and his friends created. I had established a company under my name where the money was deposited. Tyler's teammates, mostly graduate students and freelance engineers, played a role in the development, but it was Tyler, still in elementary school, who handled the main part of the development. App development doesn't end with the release. It requires maintenance and frequent updates, which Tyler primarily handles. Whenever simple legal knowledge was needed during development, he would read my law books to address it. Tyler, even as a child, has completely relieved me of financial worries and even gifted me with dreams. He mostly manages the deposits by himself. However, since bank transactions are mostly done online, we seldom visit the bank in person. Moreover, I usually stop by the bank in the middle of work, dressed in formal suits. Today, we wore casual attire, so that's why Jimmy didn't recognize me. Perhaps he is new to this branch or simply not used to seeing unfamiliar faces. Regardless, it's outrageous and highly disrespectful to treat customers differently based on their appearance. We requested the branch manager to retrain Jimmy for the sake of other customers and then left the bank. At the cemetery, I talked to Rick's grave about today's events with Tyler. Unlike me, who tends to complain, Tyler always remains calm and slyly supports me. I also talked about the game app again, which I've been doing every visit. Rick, Tyler's game. It's been half a year since its release and is still gaining subscribers. Every time we release new skins or items, they have the best sales record. Tyler wrote the main codes for all of them. But I can't draw, so Mary does all the art, Tyler said happily. He loves computers and books so much that it makes it difficult for him to make close friends at school. Working with his older teammates, helping each other to create something, must be especially enjoyable for him. He told me, I can't discuss coding with my school friends, but with my development team, I can talk about even the most complex topics. He's even studying a new language now. As I reported with a smile, Tyler happily waved his hand and said, Dad, I'll definitely protect Mom. It was really hard when you left us, but it made me want to work harder to protect her. That's why I thought of making an app and got motivated to write better code and study more. I feel like I am who I am today because of you, Dad. Tyler declared in front of Rick's grave, When I grow up, I want to help people who lost their partners, just like Mom did. He studied hard in middle and high school, maintained top grades, and went on to the School of Pharmacy at the same university as Rick. He passed the bar exam and the medical licensing exam while still in university. Tyler passed the national medical exam at the same time as his graduation. His achievement of passing both the bar and medical exams garnered media attention, sparking speculation about whether he would pursue a career in medicine or law. However, it seemed he had always planned to continue with the company he started. The company, which he founded in elementary school through the development of a game app, had been mostly inactive after middle school. But he decided to restart it in earnest after graduating from university. He then made a conscious effort to employ single parents at his company. I also left the law firm where I worked and joined Tyler's company as the legal affairs manager. I was thrilled to use the knowledge and experience I had gained over the years as a lawyer in my son's company. Moreover, due to the company's policy of employing many single parents, overtime work was basically prohibited. This allowed me to return home on time every day and slowly take care of household chores. Although I love legal work, having time to relax and focus on my personal life also seemed necessary. About a year after Tyler restarted the company, he mentioned that Cindy, the woman who had helped us at the bank that day, had come for a job interview. It had been over a decade, but the moment they met, both instantly recognized each other with a surprised, "It's you from that time." Apparently, the rude bank employee, Jimmy, was fired after the incident. Cindy, who had been harassed by Jimmy and had already submitted her resignation, also left the bank. Since then, as a single parent with a daughter, she had faced many challenges, but those days finally came to an end. Cindy, always considerate and capable, became an indispensable executive secretary at Tyler's company. Tyler, Cindy, her daughter, and I go out for dinner once a month. When the alcohol starts to hit, Tyler often says, "Truth is indeed stranger than fiction, and the most exciting." It seems that Tyler, who never had any romantic rumors, had even invited Cindy's daughter to dinner. She also seems surprisingly interested in him. Life is truly unpredictable. Today, as I headed home in the sunset after work, I spoke to Rick in my heart. "Rick, please continue to watch over Tyler and me." Then, it felt like the first star twinkled in response.